My name is Joe Reynolds out of LowKick MMA. Today joining me is Damon the Leech Jackson. How are you doing today, buddy?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Not too bad myself, so I'll get right into it. Obviously, coming very soon on UFC Fight Night against Pat Sabatini. It's a big fight. Going into that, it looks to see a winning streak at Centre 4, just a few weeks away. How are you feeling for that fight?
No, I'm feeling great. It's just, every fight camp, you kind of come down to the last few weeks and you're either really banged up and you don't know if you want to take the fight or you're feeling great. This is a good fight camp so far, and I feel great right now. Ready to get going for sure.
And as well, just to touch on it a bit, UFC 277 at Dallas, Texas. Obviously, you was also ready for that fight night as well without any fight whatsoever. So I'm not knowing if you are going to have a fight, but being there ready to fight, what was that like going into that one?
I just kind of did that for just in case the chance came up. I was really hoping that I could fill in one of those fights. No featherweight fights, so 2 lightweight fights only, and gonna be ready. But it was nice. I got my weight down a little lower, and I was got to focus on fight. I was hoping that I had one the fight, and I would just be ready to go for my fight. That much more ready.
And as well, your opponent, Pat Sabatini, obviously both of you are extraordinary grapplers. You look at your resumes, you'll see on there lots of chokes, lots of finishes from submissions. Do you see this fight being another one of those sort of grappling competitions, or are you going into it with the intentions of keeping it on the feet?
I think that both of us, if we lied and said that we would keep it on the feet the whole time, it would be 100% alive. It's going to go to the ground eventually, for sure. And I like my chances on the ground against him. And I'll go against anyone. I'll grapple with anyone. I'll do jiu-jitsu with anyone. I know my wrestling, offensive wrestling is better than his. And then his defensive wrestling is not that impressive to me. So the fight will go to the ground eventually, for sure. I see myself winning that battle.
And as you mentioned there, obviously, with the wrestling, it seems as though it's one of those things that everyone knows is going to happen eventually when they do fight you. But only very few people so far during your pro career have had the answer to that solution so far. So knowing that pretty much in most of the fights that you have, you always seem to have that wrestling advantage. What is that like knowing going into each fight that you have?
I think that it's definitely comforting to have a real strong style, and one of the forms of mixed martial arts is just so crazy. The way that people train nowadays is just it's insane how well-rounded people are when they first start. So having the pedigree to wrestle through college, and I was All-American in college, and to go through that and to be at a high level there before I started fighting, that's a big reason why I'm at where I'm at. And I feel comfortable grappling in all aspects because I've been doing jiu-jitsu since 2005 and wrestling since 2000. So this is something that I've been doing daily for over 20 years now. And this is I feel comfortable taking anyone to the ground. It definitely gives me a lot of confidence to have that in my back pocket.
And as you mentioned with the training pedigree that you had during your college days, and now obviously the gym that you're training out of in Dallas, Texas, Fortis MMA, I mean, you look at some of the talent that's in there, both all at different stages of the journey. So to also train around people like that day in, day out, what's that like in terms of improving your skills and then as a motivator going into a fight as well?
Yeah, man, we get our team's coming on a roll right now. We're winning big fights, and we're getting challenged by tough opponents, and we're still winning. So that's very motivating, and to be around that's awesome. But it's it also makes you step your game up. You want to work harder, so you're not the one that that lets it you're not the one that messes it up. And right now, we're on a little bit of a win streak right now, and everybody's fighting so well. And we're winning big fights, so I want to keep that momentum going and go into this fight and take full advantage of it. And then my next fight, I want someone in the top 15.
And I was just about to mention after, obviously, talking about the big fights, obviously, this one's a very big fight as well. Here we'll see, believe this will be 5-1 now in your second stint with the UFC. So to get that improvement. Surely the top 15 is something that you've got to be looking at next. So is that something that you see right after this fight, or will you just take it as the offers come in?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as as soon as this fight goes down and we see where I'm at from there, I would love to fight again this year. I would love to get back in there, as soon as possible. I don't want to sit around and wait for a top team fight at the time to come to me. Go how I normally do. Like, as soon as the fight's over, I ask for another fight, and they're so good about giving you a fight when you want to fight. So, I got to go take care of business, on 17th to make sure that I get my hand raised. And then from there, I think I built so much momentum off of a win over him would be, it would. All right.
No problem. So, and then as well, in terms of looking at what can come next for you after this, you mentioned the top 15. Is there anyone that you look at in the top 15 that'd be potential opponents for you? Or, as you said, obviously, with the matchmaking, are you more than happy just to take anybody that comes along?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the number's a number. I don't really care who's there. I want to be in the top 15, and I want to be able to get in the top 10 after the next fight. So, whoever's there, whoever they're gonna say that is available, I'll take the fight. I don't care about matchup style wise. I'm definitely the guy that will just, if I ask for a fight and they give me a fight, that's all I want. I don't really care who it is. I wanted to prove myself every time I go out there, and this is a big test for sure.
And as you mentioned, now obviously it's top 15 and then top 10. But in 12 months' time, where do you see the Leech being inside of the UFC? What is the ideal route over the next 12 months? What does that path sort of look like for you?
I think that winning takes care of everything. I think that's the only way that I'm going to get in the top 15. After this fight, so got to win this fight, and then from there, it would be winning the next fight and winning the next fight. And I think that's what there's not a lot of grudge matchups for me. I don't really have a problem with a lot of people, so. I would love to get in there and mix it up with anyone in the top 15. And then after that, if I could pull a top 10 fight, that would be huge too. So, I'm trying to be prepared for whoever they give me, because I never have turned a fight down. So, and that's something I would love to just get right back into it before the year's up. And so hopefully someone's ready in that top 15. Hopefully they're ready to ask him for a fight. So maybe they think I'm an easy matchup or something that I can work my way into that top 15.
Yeah, and then obviously with this, you've had 2 stints now in the UFC, this one being the second. Obviously, this one's been an extremely great run for you so far. But what would you say the biggest difference would be from that first stint inside of the UFC a few years ago to now looking at where you are inside of the UFC and how successful you have been since returning?
Just I was really young in my career. I had just started fighting, and I made it to the UFC in a year and a half. So, I had very little training on the feet. I had nothing but a little bit of boxing, and that was it. So I had maybe a few months of boxing, and then I made it to the UFC, and all I had was wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And it took me a long ways. I won all my amateur fights by submission. I won all my fights up until my 9th fight right before I made it to the UFC. I won all those fights by submission. So it took me a long ways. It's just it wasn't enough. So I think that first stint was just me being young in my career, and then now the second round is just me over the years evolving and becoming just a better martial artist. So it's just time. That's it. Time on the mat.
And would you say having that first stint, obviously, when you did leave the first time around, would you say it lit an extra fire under your belly in a sense? You got the taste of what it's like to be in the promotion that every fighter pretty much wants to be in. Would you say that was an even extra motivator for you to push on? Because I believe after that you went on to be the LFA featherweight interim champion as well at one stage. So would you say that that first stint was a big motivator for you?
100%. Yeah. Cause I mean, once you get in there, you definitely want to, you think that that's the only level you should be at. You don't want to be anything less. So, that was definitely huge for, driving me to continue to, chase the dream and chase after this. And I knew I was good enough to make it. And I knew that I, could hang with a lot of people. It's just, getting that opportunity again to fight someone that's, all the top 15, top 20 fighters are in the UFC. So if you wanted to be a true world champion, the only way to do that is to make it to UFC and to win it in there. And so it was definitely a big test, but that first stint was definitely a big motivator.
Yeah, and now we're looking at it since you've come back. It looks as though the UFC, they've given you a lot of the prospects in the division, a lot of the guys that are on the come up, quickly rising, but it doesn't seem as though they've been able to stop you yet, and you've been able to deal with it. So with the likes of the opponents that you have faced in these last few fights, what would you say those have been like in terms of preparing for them and now looking at what's in front of you in Pat Sabatini?
Pat Sabatini is definitely the most well-rounded, and he's more of a veteran fighter than a lot of the guys I face. But like the next generation of fighters, they're so good, and so like it's nice to get in there and mix it up with some younger guys, and go ahead and get that out of my system and fight those guys, and then I get a chance to fight. Pat Sabatini, which he's a veteran. He won, a belt outside of the UFC. I don't know the name of the promotion, but he's a well-rounded fighter. He's been around for a while, so this is definitely a big test, and I'm excited for it for sure.
And I know you mentioned a little bit where you see your advantages lie in terms of the offensive wrestling and everything else, or such as that. But what do you think will be the biggest difference in that fight for you going into it? That'll be the winning factor or deciding factor, if you will, for that fight.
I want him more. It's simple. I don't know what his motivation is. I don't know if he has a family. I don't know if he has, I don't know what he has going on. But I have so much going on in my life that this is just one of those things where I continue fighting, like continue chasing this dream, and I just want it to pay off, and I want it to be like the thing that motivates me every day to get out of bed and also go to work and to be like in the gym training. Like, it just means a lot to me right now. It means more than anything it ever has with competing, making it into the top 15 and then to the top 10 and then challenging for the title in the next 2 years. Like those things, they motivate me so much that I think that's going to be the biggest factor. Is just, I'm prepared for this fight, and I'm prepared to go all 3 rounds, and I'll be looking for a finish, and he's not really a finisher.
And as well, just to mention, obviously, I'm a British MMA guy, so I've got to mention the Leon Edwards title fight. Seeing those sort of the underdog stories, how they come in and win titles. When you see those sort of things, do you start to envision yourself a little bit in their positions, and that's even a more driving, motivating factor for you, just seeing their success and knowing that you have the capabilities to do that as well?
Yeah, no, it's definitely that was a huge win. That was huge, man. It was a Hail Mary at its best. Like that last ditch effort to pull out a win. That just goes to show you like that you're never out of the fight. And so I think that if you look back on my very first debut fight against Mirsad Bektik, I was getting it handed to me for 2 or 3 rounds, and then I pulled that choke off at the end. And it's just kind of like that's always in the back of my head. Like I'm always looking for a finish. I'm never gonna like settle for a position. He holds a lot of people down, and he does a real good job. Pat Sabatini does a good job at holding people down and punching them and maybe going for a choke or two, but I saw all the guys that he held down so far in the UFC, and none of them tried to get up the way that I would get up. I would never just lay there and like settle down and take that beating. And I think that that's what's going to surprise him is that I'm just not ready to quit. I'm not willing to give up.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, in terms of obviously you don't quit in any of your fights. The last week we've seen you have the odd decision in there. So would you say that obviously going back and returning to finishing ways, is that the only route that you're seeing at the moment with this fight? Is that the only probable cause of what you see getting the submission victory or the finish once again?
Yeah, no, that's all I want. I never wanted to go to decision. I had a really bad rehydration on my last fight. Like that was just, my legs were completely frozen. They didn't work right. They were like, they just felt so heavy. So, you know, coming into this fight, I'm not going to, you know, sit here and talk smack about him. I'm not going to say that his jiu-jitsu or his wrestling is not that good, because it's very good. It's, you know, he's great everywhere. And, you know, it's a big test for sure, but I see myself, you know, locking that submission up for sure and getting a finish.
And then finally from me, just to give you an opportunity, just shout any sort of teammates, sponsors, social media platforms as well. Obviously, just feel free to go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I got Instagram and Twitter. I don't really get on Twitter a lot, but you know, it's Damon B. Jackson. And then just shout out to Fortis MMA, man. We're tearing it up, and you know, we're coming for that #1 spot this year. So you know, we love all the support, and I appreciate it too.
Yep. Well, that is everything from me. I do really appreciate your time. Obviously, for those that might not know Damon Jackson, somehow don't miss his fight. It's a brilliant fight in 2 weeks' time. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much, buddy.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.